Hello, I'm back again on this lovely Wednesday of the new moon in Scorpio. Yeah, it feels awesome today, doesn't it? Oh, there's a lot of feelings and emotions going on today because tonight will be the new moon in Scorpio at the last degrees, couple last degrees of Scorpio. We'll take a look at that, but it's been a very interesting week. Uh, I personally experienced, well, I suppose not personally, but in my local community, there was a lot of accidents that really affected the community, is sort of waking people up to certain things, and so it seems to be sort of the scorpionic theme at the pinnacle now with this new moon, um, triggering emotions that are connected to loss and um, themes of death and, uh, moving on. We're coming face to face with these very, very uh, difficult situations, difficult themes. And ultimately, um, it leads us into, what is power? How do we give away our power? How do we have our own power? Um, we are taken to the extreme with Scorpio so that we can think about our own power, our own mastery. It seems like a a very challenging way to look at our gifts and our talents, but this is one of the steps on the hero's journey, is to basically go into the underworld. And this is where we're at. We're at the moment of entering or being at the depths of the underworld. And what do we find there? So, yeah, it's some pretty deep themes coming up uh, right now. Right now, I'm gonna share the chart so we can look and see, and mainly so that I can focus, because that way I'm not just drifting off into philosophical land. But here is the chart for today. And just before that new moon, we have Mercury in an opposition with Uranus that just went back into Taurus. And Mercury is at the very last degree of Scorpio, and Uranus is at 29 Taurus, is retrograding, and both planets are retrograding. Um, and so they're going to meet this opposition again in the future. And so there is something happening right now that is setting the stage for a finale down the road after Mercury goes forward again and reaches that opposition with Uranus again. And there's lots of moments where Mercury is going to revisit planets, revisit certain connections that's been made these past few weeks. And so there's really sort of a long-term theme playing out right now. And we can kind of see that happening because, like, as some news comes out, it's like we don't really know where we're going with all of this because it's kind of a lot of things are sort of coming up into the air, but the stage is being set for next year, beginning of next year, the ending of this year, beginning of next year. We'll be seeing things in a sort of kind of finale because it's like a show that's going on right now um, with Mercury and Uranus in opposition. There is like instant communication, there is instant disclosure also. Now, something happened last night that I thought was so interesting. And I will just, talking about it as an observation, even though it is within the political realm. And, Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio, is sort of a political player um, out of manipulation. There is one of the things about Pluto is manipulation. And Pluto being an Aquarius is sort of more, it's still in the political realm because the co-ruler is Saturn to Aquarius. It's Uranus and Saturn. So if we're thinking about Saturn as being the co-ruler, um, we're still in the arena of politics and politicians. So, but last night, um, the president of the United States was having dinner, a meeting with the prince of another country. I'm just going to be vague because I don't want to get censored. And um, there was a moment where the president was sort of like bitching out the reporters, right? And that was just like spinning around on the heel and just like letting somebody have it, right? It seemed like, people were talking about it like spanking the kids in front of company. Very Iranian, very like just here we go. And it was against a reporter, which, Mercury represents communication, and a lot of people will consider it the news, you know, the things that are going on, all of the constant things that are going on. And so, and very soon after that, I don't, maybe this was already all set up, but it just seemed to be like one thing after another yesterday. Um, and Mercury had just went back into um Scorpio yesterday, actually, retrograding back into Scorpio. So, this is like and back into the realm of disclosure. It took just a matter of hours for the House and the Senate to agree to release the Epstein files. It only took them a matter of hours to everybody to basically agree. There were just like a couple, there was like one person that voted against it, and a few, like maybe four people who didn't vote at all because they were scared to get caught up in it. But for whatever reason, our whole government agreed to make this happen. And that is kind of surprising considering that our government has been, the United States government has been in this tug of war with power. Something makes them think that unifying under this is going to be a show of power. Uh, you know, they're unifying, making us, it's kind of funny because this is ultimately disclosure in itself that the government actually doesn't have two sides, that basically they are united and that they only have fake fights about one side or the other because ultimately, um, they kind of all want the same thing. They all want power. They all want recognition. Everybody wants they're clamoring just for power and recognition. And really, that's the only reason why those people are representatives. And so it's just interesting with this opposition happening between Mercury and Uranus, and with the Uranus being one of the rulers of Pluto, Mercury being in Scorpio, the ruler is Pluto. It's like, yeah, there's disclosure happening if you have the right eyes to see it with. Because it's hilarious. It's hilarious how quickly they all got together to agree to do this. Not to say that anything of substance is going to come out of it. And that's why I think that they all got together and unified and all agreed to do it because it was just for show. You know, that's just kind of the funny thing, the end result of it all. But we'll see because once Mercury is done going retrograde, um, this is going to play out for a little while. This hilarious stage show on stage that is the United States politics. We're going to pretend that there's two different sides. But they showed their cards. They did show their cards yesterday. That they are all one, really, actually. So, moving on. Um, I see that Mercury is also in a trine with Neptune here. And that might be one of the reasons why the illusions are being shown, the cards are being shown. It's not really on purpose, it's just sort of like that sleight of hand didn't quite work this time because we have the spotlight shining on the illusion this time. And with both Mercury and Uranus in aspect to Neptune, that's a big spotlight. It's like a big spotlight on the show. And so if you're paying attention, you'll be able to see all the ways that they're trying to trick you. Like I said, if you have the eyes to see. And that goes with your personal life too. I'm just using the example on the world stage because everybody can see it right now. But if you consider your personal life, there may be some kind of light that's being shined on a situation that you've been in the dark, or that some illusion has been pulled on you. And if you can sort of to just peel back that veil a little bit, that's what Mercury and Uranus are both trying to help you do. Just peel back that veil a little bit so that you can see what the crew is doing in the background to make the illusion come to life. You know, there's always something in the background. Um, and, one of the cool things is that while Mercury is closest to the sun in this situation, the moon is actually the furthest away from the sun right now. And so there's even though they're in the same sign, it just so happens that the moon is further away um, I'm sorry, from the earth, the moon from the earth. What am I saying? And that Mercury is closer to the sun. And so we have this moment where Mercury is getting kind of burned up by the sun, and it's happening in Scorpio. And And so that light, that extra light that is showing up, even though it's a dark moon, it's very interesting. Like I said, the um the opposites that are happening that are actually helping each other. Um, because with the moon being further out from the earth, it's like more out into the cosmos, is like very in deep, like deeper space. And that means more internal exploration for us all personally. And as you can see, Black Moon Lilith here indicates where the furthest point is of the moon's orbit around the Earth. And so it's all right here. And that means that something dark is going to be illuminated. And we've had lots of opportunities for this. And there's been a lot that's been exposed, layers being peeled back on the darkness. And it's kind of rough for people who are sensitive. It is. But like I have said for a long time about these kinds of things, that it's happening, whether the veil is, firmly over your eyes and you choose not to see these things, or whether the veil has been lifted and you see them. It's happening either way. So these very dark themes that are being exposed, and I think that maybe, it's safe. I'm pretty confident in saying that themes of death will be coming up that people probably just don't want to know about. And that's usually the case for dark themes, and when disclosure is digging things up. We're going into investigative mode. And um, you know, this is all happening right before the sun and the moon first goes into Sagittarius, which is a whole different feeling. So all of this is the setup for what is going to fuel our fire just in the next couple days, as the darkness or a dark theme. Let's go to the moon. Time is that going to be? The 10 Pacific. That's good enough. Yeah, there we go. Closer to 11 Pacific. And with the sun and the moon and Mercury and Black Moon Lilith all in conjunction, opposing this very active Uranus in Taurus. Um, there's probably something about financial things coming up. We did learn that there's going to be more investments being made into the United States. We'll see if that's actually true, because all of this is happening during a Mercury retrograde, which doesn't mean that it's not true. It just means that there's something hanging by a thread, something that might be like a compromise. There's probably some compromises, because like making a deal usually is a series of compromises, right? And that's all like backroom stuff, and that's the theme of Scorpio, things that are happening that we don't know about. Um, but there are clues. There are always going to be clues during Scorpio season, no matter how hard they try to keep it from us. There is the rule, of needing to disclose and tell us what they're doing. So if you have the right eyes to see, then you can see clearly where any of this and all of this is going. And but I'm not really here to um, decipher all of those things exactly because then I start sounding like a super crazy person. And I'm already into astrology, so. But the new moon that is happening tonight is ultimately a seed of disclosure that is born out of darkness. And we'll see, ultimately where it leads us. But there are already things that many of us who have done research, many of us already know about. So there's no surprises for a lot of us. But for many, many, many more people who haven't done the research on some of these things that might be brought out into the light, it's going to be quite shocking. It'll be very dark, um, because there doesn't seem to be any way around it this time. I keep seeing the scorpionic influence just getting more, uh, what is the word? Like powerful. The part of Scorpio that represents power is just getting more intense. So, um, I think it's a good time to not be influenced too much by one side or the other of any kind of politics. Just don't, because it's going to keep you from seeing what you're meant to be able to see. Blinded by some kind of loyalty that they don't deserve. You know, those people don't deserve your loyalty enough to, um, enough to like break up with your family over. That is one of the things to think about where we have a trine with this new moon to Jupiter, and Jupiter in Cancer. Just, it's going retrograde. So we are in a moment where we are having experiences that will have us reconsidering family challenges, closeness. It's an interesting time for that because Thanksgiving is coming and this planetary arrangement, this new moon is setting the stage for that holiday. And if you choose, um, if you choose to have so much loyalty to a political party to where you dismiss your family, I think that maybe you should reconsider this because those people are not your blood. Your family is your blood. Yeah. And that square to Chiron that Jupiter's making. That means there's a lot of wounding and pain, and it's been like that. It's going to be like that. Jupiter and Chiron are locked into that square for a while because of retrograde motion. And the easiest way to deal with that square and that challenge is to just decide not to dis discard your family over politics. I could say friends, but I mean, family is, um, we're here to deal with each other when it comes to family, and we're here to um, always be figuring out what it is that our family is trying to teach us. And if we throw all of that away because of politics, then it's a great waste of a lifetime. It is. I know I've spent a lot of time talking about just Wednesday, just the new moon, but that's how I'm feeling about it. Feeling like it's a very intense moment. It's going to lead to other intense moments as we go into more of a fiery season. Sagittarius. Sagittarius season is right around the corner after this new moon. And so I think it's very important to consider all the ways that we are being manipulated by politics. Do you remember how it felt before you cared so much about politics to where you would, like, that was what ruled your life, essentially? And maybe this is some of the darkness that I keep thinking about. It keeps coming to me, thinking about dark times, and you know, um, it seems very dark, very, very dark to choose to disconnect with friends and family over politics. And I understand that politics shapes our lives, but these politicians are manipulating us. And so getting in touch with your emotions, taking responsibility for your own emotions and not projecting it on another person, that would be really, really, really powerful work right now with this new moon in Scorpio. Now I should probably move on because I'm just so fired up about this new moon. And so the next day, we've got the moon goes into Sagittarius, and we've got a fire lit up as the moon it gets closer to Mars also. And the sun is still in the last degree of Scorpio, conjunct Black Moon Lilith. And so these dark themes are going to continue, but now we have fire in our gut, fire in our heart, and fire under our feet. So um, it leads to a lot of action and seeking. I'm hoping that it's more seeking and going on the quest for the truth. Because Scorpio season may have peeled back just enough layers for you to get really curious about the truth. And as the moon goes into Sagittarius right before the sun does, um, these feelings will probably start to emerge because um, the moon is going to go straight in and go towards Mars, which is very activating for us to do something. And we choose to take action based on a desire, right? And our values, Venus, still in Scorpio, we are wanting to dig deep. We want to become the investigator with that, like, fire in our heart. So, uh, you know, the reason why I mentioned the how quickly everybody in our government decided to just release the Epstein files is that it's going to spark something. Either you noticed how quickly they got that done. You notice that it's fully redacted, and so like what what's the point? You notice that both sides are using this to manipulate people. And what is the actual truth? It's very confusing. It's hidden under layers of confusing material, and seeking the truth is going to be, um, wow, you know, I have a feeling that people are going to be on fire. They want to know the truth because we keep getting teased with the truth. And since both sides believe that those files are the answer to proving their point, there's going to be a lot of fire being thrown around. And um, I have a feeling there's a lot of like throwing under the bus type stuff with all this fire stuff because we'll get this feeling with fire inside of it. And all day on Thursday, there is this like boiling water that's about ready to burst, or like volcanic activity that's about to come through, break through. I'm just gonna move forward to when the sun moves in Sagittarius, and we can see that Mercury had crossed over the sun, and we have Mercury and Venus being closer together now. And that's going to be an interesting moment as Venus moves forward and Mercury moves backwards. They will also connect at some point. And so there'll be some kind of information about our monetary value, monetary issues, financial issues, the value of our money is probably going to come up. Um, we see the clock ticking. We've all seen the clock ticking with regards to money stuff because when the government shut down, it created a cascade of effects, a very domino-like effect that is still falling. And we are still going to be learning about the effects of that. And as the sun goes into Sagittarius, the light comes out. It's like the volcano bursts. Um, what was underground comes to the surface in a very fiery way. So this is why I think of like a volcano. A lot of people will say that it's like the rebirthing of like the phoenix, but in this case, I very clearly see like a volcano, and maybe even literally, we might see some volcano action. Um, it is quite a volatile time because of how much underground activity, the darkness, and I'm speaking metaphorically. Um, all of this activity that was underground in the underworld is going to be coming to the surface, and um, you know, uh, it's going to be an emotional event. Um, not like any kind of event is going to happen, I don't think. I don't think we're at that moment where an event is happening. It's just these energetic fires starting underneath people. And when it happens on a mass scale, it's like an explosion, right? And so yeah. Um, and oh right, and on Thursday also I forgot to mention that the sun will be opposite um Uranus. It's like a wave of it being opposing Uranus because it's still opposing Uranus, even though it goes into Sagittarius, but it's out of sign, not quite as powerful. But it is the lead up to these sort of like explosive feelings, emotions. When the sun comes into Sagittarius, it's not just about our feelings anymore. It is actually about reality. We have some kind of reality bursting forth. Something fiery. Uh, yeah, because people are going to be very upset about the result of what is being unearthed. And I think that it's going to be upsetting because it's like just more lies and manipulation, more clear, like backroom type stuff that people are just like so tired of. Like, if you want to get everybody to unify under something, like the people, um, just keep manipulating and lying to us, and we'll eventually wake up to it. You know, patterns are patterns. It's a pattern. You can only lie and manipulate so much. Mm. Got my raw milk in my coffee. It's so good. And I'm drinking a coffee that's called Black Magic because it seems perfect for the new moon in Scorpio. For the switch, at least. So, okay, let's move to Saturday's chart because I really spent a lot of time earlier. And Saturday, the moon is squaring Saturn early on, um, before going into Capricorn. So, doo-doo. Early in the morning. Early in the morning, we have Moon and Saturn square. Yeah, because Saturn is about to go forward again. Saturn is almost done with being actually retrograde, and then we'll be moving forward through the shadow of where Saturn already was. And so moving forward again. And so Saturn's not going any further than 25 degrees, stuck there. I believe that will be the degree that Saturn moves forward on, that or the late degrees of 24. Um, and so this particular square between Saturn and the moon is sort of like a finalization feeling. Something is like coming in for closure because it's the moon is moving in towards Saturn. And so a closing square that is um, more or less um, creating like tension. And the ruler for both of these, we can consider Jupiter, because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. And so, and they're in a angle, they're in aspect. There's a trine to Jupiter from Saturn, and then a inconjunct to the moon. And I feel like it's an important moment, even though it's happening like early in the morning for us, but because of everything that we're going through, there has to be a grounding moment. There has to be something that sort of to, is like, okay, I need a feeling of something concrete that I can do or feel. That's what people are going to be wanting. And ultimately, this square is sort of like that moment. It's a challenge, but it is inviting you to do some grounding work, even though you feel very fired up. And you feel super fired up because Sagittarius season is starting and you are on fire about all kinds of stuff, you know. Jupiter is, well, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius as a sign is well known for being just bigger than life. And so it will be expanding on these feelings and, you know, looking at Jupiter in Cancer once again, these feelings are going to be about family. And it's one of the reasons why it's such an important point, in my opinion, that we start to look at our family as our anchor, our grounding to reality, and I'm talking about most like normal family relationships. There's a lot of normal people out there going through not knowing what they should do because of political differences. But here's the thing, and put the actual politics aside and put like issues that you care about uh, at the center of the table, and you're gonna agree. Everybody's gonna agree on what they want. It's just that they're not gonna agree on which politician is gonna take them there. So this there's a water trine with Mercury and Jupiter and Saturn, and it could be an alchemical, magical moment of grounding. But we have to consider that our family is actually more important than politics, or our family is more important than whatever superficial bullshit you have thought is more important. And I'm not talking about people who have been like abused by their family. I'm just talking about people who are like, everything was fine until dot dot dot, insert political rant. And that is, I get on my soapbox when I think about this stuff because Like seriously, I just can't believe the way that people are like falling for being manipulated. Um, because to me, on a level, it's like everybody's being sold a version of the politics that it's like you're a consumer of whatever politic that you subscribe to, and these politicians want to make sure that you maintain that subscription to their membership. It's a ridiculous thing to see if you can kind of like just step back. That's all that is really required of you if you want to actually seek the truth. If you want to go on the quest for the ultimate truth, which is Sagittarius season is inviting you to go on that quest and take a step back. Nobody's going to judge you for just taking a step back. And if they do, they can just go do whatever it is that they do. And what else is going on Saturday? We got Mercury trine um, Saturn. I believe I brought that up. Mercury trine Saturn. Yeah, that's part of that water trine. Yeah, there might be an emotional vortex, a, and a more emotional portal is more like what I meant to say. I feel an emotional portal through this water trine because it is really inviting people to use their intuition, like see beyond what is being sold to you, right? Maybe we can all agree to just kind of look at what we're being sold. You know, you've been pegged as a certain kind of consumer. How does that make you feel? Is it something that you consent to, even, you know? And Sunday, after the moon goes into Capricorn, um, Sunday is a relatively quiet day, it seems like. It's mainly the sun making a sextile to Pluto, and that is an opportunity for growth, honestly. If you can see it with the right eyes to see, which is why I say take a step back, because in order to grow, you have to make that room, right? You can't grow and keep putting on those same small clothes like as a child, you know? You can't keep putting on those clothes that don't fit. You got to get bigger clothes. You have to make space to grow. Step back, get some space. Try to try to put yourself in other people's shoes, even. I know that you think that you might be doing that, but do it with somebody that you aren't seeing eye to eye with. It's much easier to do that with somebody that you have compassion for and empathy for. And that's like when we always do that. But the true challenge is putting yourself in the shoes of somebody that you think you hate, because that's where true growth is going to be. That's where we really dig into that dirt that's all around us, you know. 'Cause we don't want to admit or even think that the people that we think we hate are even worth standing in their shoes. God, we'd rather just like, say that they could die or whatever. And like, does that make you a decent human being thinking like that? I said that a lot of issues will be coming up during these transits, and this is essentially what the chart is telling me. These charts, the planets are telling me that these are the things that you're going to be faced with, as we get closer to Thanksgiving in the next week, as we come into Monday. And we're making our plans for travel, and we're making our plans to get together with family. And this is one of the reasons why thinking about family has been coming up, is because we have a tradition that is in a few days. It'll be on the Thursday of this week that I'm talking about now, Monday. And either you decide that you're gonna not to get together with family that you disagree with, which is so silly, right? Isn't that silly? You agree to get together and not talk about politics, or you can do the hard work of just putting yourself in their shoes and just opening up space in your heart for letting people be who they are. And, they may not have to fight so hard to be right, or, to shove their politics in your face if you're not basically inviting them to do so. And, I'm not talking about one side or the other, because we have been split into two sides ultimately. I'm talking about both sides being equally as neurotic. And that's my perspective. And that's all of this. Um, because let's see, on Monday we start out early in the morning with Mercury in conjunct Chiron. That's very uncomfortable. And thinking uncomfortable thoughts. And, that's why I said, at the beginning of the week, we're really going to be leaning into thinking about family, because either we're getting together with them or we aren't. And there are reasons why we either are or aren't. And sometimes it's because there's just too much stuff between people. And sometimes there's just too much physical space between people. And, you can't always bridge that physical space because it's hard to travel. Um, but you're still going to be thinking about family, whether you get together or not, because the planets are really, really opening up that space and the portal for you to do that. And either it's traumatic as this portal opens up, or it's healing. And either, that's why the Chiron, the wounded healer, is involved with this, an aspect, in conjunct aspect. And I can say right now, most of the wounds that are coming up about family is like how we feel left out, um, sort of abandoned in a way because of cultural reasons. There's all kinds of different generational stories about what our parents were like. Um, Through each generation, there's a different story. And so that's Chiron right there in that aspect to Mercury that is still going retrograde in Scorpio. And, Mercury will still be going retrograde when we gather for Thanksgiving. So our mouths may not have a whole lot of control over our mouths unless you start doing the work beforehand. It's always a good time. Before you know, you might get triggered, and that's what astrology's about, is looking at the timing of things and saying, like, this is a good time. Monday, if you haven't committed to taking a look at family issues and trying to heal something so that it's not a traumatic event again, then Monday is a good time to just start opening up your heart and your mind to that. I know we've all been through a lot. Um, Either you decide that you have to make a new start without your old family attached to you because it was that horrible, and there are some people that have been through that. Um, Obviously, there are people that have been through horrible things, and yeah, it's okay. You start over, like without these people bringing you down. Obviously, that's like a clear choice. Um, but I know it's made complicated by the wounds. And so this is why you have to start thinking about giving yourself space to think about these things. And obviously, there are ways to look into um, the past life aspect of family and why you are with this family, why things happen the way that they did. And it's an obvious reflection of past life um, patterns. And if you're here to create boundaries with the people that you call family, then it's written in your chart. It is, and I'm I'm here to help if that's what you need help with, you know. Um, because I can't make a definitive decision for you, but sometimes having that um metaphysical, symbolic look at something, maybe it helps shed some light. It does. So, so yeah, and on Monday, the moon makes all kinds of aspects with all kinds of different planets. So the moon is sextile Venus, the moon is sextile Mercury, and the moon will be opposing Jupiter, all within a few hours' time. So the moon goes through these aspects with Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter, and even Saturn, it looks like. Yep, Saturn. Moon will be sextiling Saturn. And all of those sextiles are going to be opportunities that are harmonious. And so there'll be sparks of light. You get into that uncomfortable position with Mercury and Chiron, and you allow yourself to create some space to actually go through those emotions because the moon is giving you an opportunity to pull gifts, pull information and gifts from these aspects with the planets, with um, you know, Venus in Venus and Mercury both in Mer in a Scorpio. Um, they are both like unearthing and digging up and trying to find values and trying to find information. And there will be a gift in there as long as you're willing to look. Because some people won't even be willing to look. We come into that in conjunct uncomfortable aspect with Chiron, and because we've got, you know, Venus in conjunct with Chiron on Tuesday, and Mercury and Venus will be conjunct, and so this in conjunct is affecting the not just Mercury but also Venus. So it's like a double whammy in Scorpio, involving our values, uh, which are like, our values is the reason why we do things, and our thought process. Mercury is involved with this, so um, just remember that you're being invited to heal things, even though it's going to be uncomfortable at the start. And so, yes, on Tuesday, the next day, it's- we've got, yeah, Moon goes into Aquarius and will be conjuncting Pluto. Wow. So, the ruler of Scorpio, Pluto, being in Aquarius, is going to be conjuncted by the moon. The moon will be passing by, and all of these levers that have been pulled with regards to Scorpio season, it all goes flooding into our emotional channel. And this is a moment where we can really feel the work that we've been doing. Either you feel that traumatic thing because Tuesday is closer to Thursday, which is Thanksgiving. We're getting closer, and like either you feel that spark of fear that you're going to be coming in contact with your family, or you have a very powerful illumination with regards to family healing, you know, but it's going to take a conscious effort. It's going to have be take being conscious to get there. Because yeah, with the moon conjuncting Pluto, um, and for a while now, since Pluto moved into Aquarius, when the moon conjuncts Pluto, it's not messing around. There's usually something that kind of goes down, usually. And so on Tuesday, we'll see, because the stage is getting set for some disclosure. Again, we still have, I believe that all of the week leading up to Thanksgiving is going to be really like exciting, back and forth, ups and downs, emotionally. And we come to this Pluto and the moon being conjunct on Tuesday, and it's like something comes to a head with regards to our expectations and what is being released, what is being disclosed, and what's been going on in our personal lives too. Because Pluto's not messing around, and with a couple of allies still in Scorpio, um, Mercury and Venus, those are personal planets. And so something with regards to the people, news about values. We'll see as we get further and further, deeper and deeper into the holiday season. Uh, it's gonna be like trying to put that happy mask on Christmas still, even though we're just barely getting through Thanksgiving. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to that year after year after year. And this year is no exception. This year is quite intense. I keep looking at all of these alignments and aspects and the planets moving around the way that they are. And I'm like, how is this not really a moment of like deep introspective processing? Uh, because it's going to be very deep. We're going to be asked to transform on a deeper level. And, the holidays, I think, sometimes distract us from that work. But this year, our family is involved with that work. So, it's, like I said, it's exciting, but at the same time, if you're not doing conscious work, with regards to family and whatever it is that you need to do personally with your healing journey. This year's gonna be rough if you're not really on that path. And we'll just kind of end a little bit on next Wednesday because we've got a couple of cool trines with the Venus trining uh, Jupiter and Saturn. And the next day on Wednesday, that's interesting, right? Jupiter and Saturn. Yeah. And so the water trine kind of shifts from Mercury so much to Venus being in that water trine, that big grand water trine. And um which may not really soften those edges because we think of Venus as like, oh, beauty and stuff, but she's also quite strategic. Um, and in Scorpio, especially, believe that Venus is in fall and considered kind of weak, I guess. But it's a particular image of Venus in Scorpio. She's still has a sense of power, even though it's very much underneath everything. It's sort of like all um, underground. And so there is very deep, we're just diving deeper, right? Because on Wednesday, it's the day before Thanksgiving, and we are in the deep end. We're in the deep end. We've got Black Moon Lilith conjuncting Mars also on Wednesday. It's very like taboo things coming up. Um Probably more like repressed things coming up. Repressed desires coming up. And sometimes, when you're thinking about family stuff, you come to that moment where you like remember there was a repressed desire by a parental figure and just what kind of trajectory that puts you on in your mind. Um, yeah, and that is an aspect to the nodes. These this conjunction is in an aspect to the nodes square. And so this challenge right here with Mars and Black Moon Lilith is a fated moment with our past and future coming to a moment to where we can see. And that's why I said, oh, we all have these moments that we can think of where we were repressed, like an action, a desire was repressed, and whether or not we have figured out that was the best thing for us or the worst thing for us, right? That theme is going to be coming up. Maybe you're really grateful that your parents didn't let you become a model, right? Because now, this at an older age, you can see that that industry is like terrible in a way, and very destructive, very manipulative. It's just like, unless you have really, really good, strong parents with strong morals, but even the parents can get corrupted in that industry. So I know maybe you're like, wow, I'm so grateful that I didn't have to live a life that, like Britney Spears did, you know? Um, you could be a moment like that. Or you could be like, man, I missed out on being famous because my parents, they didn't let me. Um, but you're left thinking about what you could have been and stuff, all of that. But it's really just a pattern that has repeated from a past life that got shifted or changed or transformed in this life. And so that's something to consider, like on a deeper level. You want to think of it as something deeper instead of um, like, you were stopped and then that's that. Like you were repressed, and then that's it. It's like, no, there's more to that story. Um, on another level, that aspect with Black Moon Lilith and Mars being conjunct could be, it could be bringing up real traumas too. So I don't want to disregard that fact that it could be bringing up real traumas, real actual aggressive things that happened to you that traumatized you. And but the key to looking at these things, if that's what you've been through, is um, the gratitude. There's something that you learned, there's something that you survived, and there's something that you were given, some kind of gift that you were given because somebody doesn't survive something like that without being given a gift of survival. It's like, trust me, I am looking at people out there in the world and I'm like, wow, there's so many people with like no survival instinct right now. It's kind of tripping me out. And so if you survived something, you have a stronger survival instinct than a lot of people out there. And that is a gift. I know it's somewhat problematic, but it is a gift. So, and then on Thursday, I know I'm going a little bit further ahead because it's just so exciting. Thursday on Thanksgiving, we have Saturn going direct. Wow, isn't that awesome? Oops, actually, click twice. Okay, Thursday. Saturn is stationing direct on Thursday. Wow. So, another reason why Thanksgiving is going to be a relief and a challenge at the same time. Yes, a relief and a challenge. Yeah. And just remember, you chose your family before you came here, right? We all chose each other before we came here. That's something that if we disregard that and throw it away, basically over politics, like I keep saying, you may have to do this life again. Saturn stationing direct on our silly little national holiday, Thanksgiving, which is usually just all about families getting together and eating dinner and being grateful for each other and being grateful that we have each other and helping support one another. I mean, it's such a feel good thing. And Saturn going direct, stationing direct on that day really is signifying that there's something solid. There's something solid about family. Blood is thicker than water, that whole thing. There's something to build off of. It's the reality. Um, and, Saturn representing karma. Our family karma is our strongest karma from past lives into the future. And the decisions that we're making with our family in this life is going to affect um, our next life because evolution just keeps going. And time, um, time, Saturn says, okay, we're doing this time, this life, and um, you know, it's the idea of karma that keeps bringing you back and doing the same thing again, because of the choices that we've made. And the idea of karma, it's not really good or bad. It's just about whether or not you're wasting time. Isn't that something interesting to consider? We don't stop thinking about good or bad and thinking about just like how many lifetimes are you going to repeat the same pattern? It's a good question. And I should probably stop there because I am going over in time. I can't believe how long this was, but I had a lot to rant about and soapbox to get up on top of. So I appreciate it if you have stuck with me during this particular video. Um, it's fun for me, actually. I love doing this now. I used to be um, afraid of what might happen if I start making videos, but this is great. I love this, and I love the possibility of connecting with more people. Well, I will see you next week around Thanksgiving, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week full of disclosure and lots of healing. Until next time, bye.